Hello and welcome to Georgia Bulldogs Live here on the Georgia Voice of College Football. I am your host, Matt Green. My other host, Bo Underwood, here with me. Bo, I heard you just graduated from the University of Georgia, sir. So congratulations. How's the graduation week?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Matt. It was good. Yeah, I graduated not last Friday, but the Friday before that. And it's pretty weird to think about now that I'm like done with everything. But I've taken a relaxing past few days here at home, and yeah, just trying to figure everything out now. But yeah, it's weird.
Now,
It's been a good week. It's been cool to do that, but now it's like, oh my God, I just graduated,
now it all truly begins, sir.
Mm-hmm.
But congratulations with that. We didn't come up to the people last week. You know, your graduation going on. I was out of town as well, so we're back with the people this week.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everyone who's tuning in live. You can follow me on Twitter, Matt_W_Green. Follow that guy over there, Bo Underwood _. Don't forget that underscore, folks. But you know, if you want to get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level, start by partnering with the Voice of College Football at sponsorships at vocfb.com. Also, go to that website, vocfb.com, to check out past episodes and check out some of your rivals. You got to know what's going on with your rivals. You know, it's one thing to be aware of your team, but you got to keep your eye to the ground, or eye to the ground, ear to the ground. Is that there you go.
Something. Be aware of the ground.
I'm terrible at phrases only when I'm doing the show. It's crazy. Like everything just sounds weird. I overthink it. But yeah. So Bo, let's get started, man.
Yeah.
All right. So we are 102 days until Georgia plays the Marshall Thundering Herd. Were you aware of that, sir?
No, I was not. That's actually kind of crazy.
102 days, man. It's we're almost here. We're that's when the countdown's really starting. So 102. I don't have a favorite number 102 in Georgia history, but maybe you could find maybe it's a 102-yard kick return or something. We could probably. I should have had that ready to go. But next week it'll be 95, right? My math's pretty good. Yeah, we'll have to give our favorite Georgia players for each number that we get to each week in the countdown. But 95 off the top of my head. I don't know. We'll save it for next week. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So we'll save that for next week. It's gonna be a hard one to beat though. 95, Devontae Wyatt, national champion Devontae Wyatt. So last week the big news that we didn't really need to come with the people with, because you do an emergency pod for the good news, like Jared Curtis committing. Yeah. So Jackson Cantwell did not choose the Georgia Bulldogs, number one offensive tackle in the country out of Missouri. He committed to the University of Miami, and and that started the cascade of NIL talk. As it does every time anyone doesn't get a recruit, but it feels like it's specifically a storyline with Georgia. He was reportedly offered $2 million to sign, right? I don't know what that means. Is that a signing bonus, or is that $2 million over 4 years? How does that work?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that means.
I don't know. You hear all kinds of rumors. That's go
weird
ahead.
Reporting. Yeah, weird. Yeah, just weird reporting rumors, I guess.
Yeah, and that's why it sucks. Is like I don't even know what's true and what's just like being thrown out there.
Yeah, I don't doubt at all though that there were millions of dollars involved though. Like
for sure. Because I mean, it also benefits the agent to kind of lie about how much the guy's getting, because that makes him look better. So I don't know. I never know what's true, but I think it's I think we all know that Miami threw some money at Jackson Cantwell to get his services, and not like Georgia offered zero to get him, but obviously whatever Miami offered was more. And then you heard Kirby Smart's comments earlier this week about NIL. He said, quote, "I just want to be able to have a freshman come in and not make more than a senior. And I'd like for other sports to be able to survive. You know, we're on the brink of probably 1 to 2 years away from a lot of schools cutting sports." And what are your first thoughts when you hear that quote from Kirby Smart?
Yeah, I don't disagree with the thought that we're a couple years away from like some sports just being cut entirely, because these NIL rules and the millions of dollars that players are getting like really only apply to football and basketball and in some cases baseball. And you obviously have a few gymnasts and a few baseball players and a few athletes in other sports earning a lot of NIL money, but for the most part, all of this money really is going towards football. And like it just creates such an unequal ecosystem to where like, yeah, some of these sports just aren't going to get funding, it feels like, and they're just going to kind of collapse. That seems like kind of a byproduct of this NIL system. And yeah, it's just a weird thing. Like the idea that like hopefully this, we hope this freshman doesn't make more than a senior. Like these are just problems that didn't exist at all even 5 years ago. So it's just like a weird thing to wrap your head around.
For
Yeah,
sure.
things just get weirder and weirder. Like the fact that Drew Rosenhaus is Jackson Cantwell's agent, one of the most ruthless, maybe the most ruthless sports agent out there. He is sticking his nose in college football now. It's just a weird situation to be in.
No, it definitely is. It's just such a weird time for the sport right now, especially because like it's basically like you said, football and basketball, and then attractive females. Like that's pretty much who's getting NIL deals. It's like, hey, it's the free market, that's what happens. Or you got a Caitlin Clark or something, some outliers out there in other sports. Jackson Johnson chiming in here. Nice comment here by Jackson. Even though Miami got Cantwell, they will still find a way to lose to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, man.
Very possible. What are they, 2 years in a row they lost to Georgia Tech? So we'll see.
Yeah.
I will say, just being the Homer Georgia fan, like one of my first thoughts was I'd rather be Miami than Ohio State or Alabama or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that Miami's not a contender, but I feel more confident. Like if Georgia's going to get to the national championship, they're going to have to go through an Alabama or an Ohio State. Maybe Miami's there.
It would be funny if they lost to Georgia Tech this year, specifically with Carson Beck after the game last year.
Oh yeah,
Carson Beck beats them.
He pulled it out though.
Like Carson Beck versus Georgia Tech would go down as like the greatest individual rivalry ever if they have another insane game next year.
Yeah, without a doubt. But do you think Georgia can survive like in the NIL era if they're not going to be consistently the toughest bidder? Because like to Kirby Smart's point, like the NFL, they address this with their rookie, like with a rookie cap, after seeing Bradford's huge contract. Like he was the only one, but it was a process. Stafford definitely got some serious money too.
Yeah, that is funny. I always forget that Sam Bradford was the one who was like made the NFL be like, okay, wait, no, we need to have normal contracts for rookies. That changed the league, because now, the whole thing in the NFL is like, if you have a good quarterback on a rookie contract, that's your window to spend a bunch of money on the rest of your roster. But yeah, I digress. What was your question? Can Georgia like survive in the NIL era?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Georgia is probably one of the only programs that can, honestly. The NIL, like, I know the argument in favor of it has always been it'll even out some of the teams, because you won't be able to make these, giant stacked 2019-18 Alabama type rosters where there's just NFL starters at every position group and everything. Because now if you have that and guys like that aren't playing, they're just going to transfer. But Georgia,
when you say Georgia's one of the few, what do you mean by like they're one of the few that like won't be the highest bidder that can still play? Like, is that what you're?
I think they're one of the few that they will be the highest bidder. I think Georgia's one of the few programs that has the insane amount of resources to where if the current climate is now going to be the top players in high school are going to be asking for millions of dollars in NIL money. I think that phases out a lot of programs from being able to get prospects like that. But Georgia is not one of those programs who is being phased out. I think
would
they're
have
probably
to. I
five
would
or
have to
six.
agree. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I'd say they're one of, maybe this is too small a number, but I really do think they're one of like 5 or 6 that really doesn't need to be losing sleep over that.
Yeah, that's probably true. Like people talk about like Texas and Miami a lot when it comes to NIL and what Ohio State's roster cost last year. I just find it hard to believe that Georgia is not a big market team, for lack of a better term. It's like the Atlanta Braves kind of, I mean, I guess they're not a small market team or anything, but you talk about like the Tampa Bay Rays or something. Like the Atlanta Braves are not the Tampa Bay Rays when it comes to, they're much closer to being the Dodgers. Maybe they're not the Dodgers, maybe that's the number one spender in the league or a Mets or something going on right now. But it seems like Georgia is going to be one of the heavyweights. And
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's just frustrating because it feels like you heard Steve Wiltfong say this multiple times throughout Jackson Cantwell's recruitment and Jared Curtis's recruitment for that matter. Like if this was an old school recruiting class, like Georgia gets both of these guys, probably gets Tyler Atkinson too. And it's like now when you kind of have a low key salary cap, like it kind of changes on which guys you're able to give those funds to. I think two things can be true here with this conversation. I think Georgia is very lucky to have won 2 national titles when they did, and now they might not have to pay top dollar to get those elite guys. And Kirby Smart's just like clearly like the number one head coach in college football. There's no Nick Saban out there anymore. Like he is number one on everyone's list basically across the board. So you have that, just infrastructure, I guess, for lack of a better word, like going into this NIL era. But I also think the other thing that can be true is if this NIL and portal era did not exist, Georgia would be the exact same program that Alabama was a decade ago. Like with just NFL players at first, second, and third string of every position, essentially. And you're just stacking elite recruiting classes on elite recruiting classes. Because let's not forget, like Nick Saban is obviously a great recruiter, but Kirby Smart is one of the recruiters that built those Bama dynasties. So, and then the fact that Nick Saban was 60 years old when he won his second national title in 2011. Kirby Smart was 46 when he won his second title at Georgia. And so just the longevity, I think that's where it's frustrating as a Georgia fan, is because you're like, this was supposed to be our time where we were building a dynasty. And now all of a sudden people care about parity and making things more even across the board. Well, this is our time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely like, and Georgia, literally, I think every other fan base on the planet except for Georgia is fine with that. But yeah, it is unfortunate and kind of funny for Georgia that, yeah, right when it looked like they were about to overtake Alabama or not overtake Alabama, but just, I guess, succeed them as that next, just evil empire program, the portal era took off, which, yeah, I don't think that's inherently a bad thing either. I think the fact that there aren't those juggernaut teams anymore is kind of one of the only good things about the new era of college football. Obviously, that leads to other problems because, the byproduct of that is like these mid-major teams or just mid-level teams rather with like star-level players are the ones that just end up getting ransacked by the transfer portal, and those guys will transfer to an Ohio State. So it's a cycle, I guess. But like, yeah, that is funny that, it did look like that for a while, that Georgia was going to become that next insane school. And who knows, like, if is Nick Saban still coaching at Alabama if the transfer portal and NIL never got out of hand, because that was a huge thing leading up to his retirement in the first place. Like there's a lot of hypotheticals we could sit here and throw out if things were different, but we have what we have right now with the state of college football, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And no one's losing any sleep for Georgia over here. They're little old Georgia. I don't think anyone's calling them that. Like little old Clemson. So yeah, they're still in as good of a position as anyone, in terms of what their prospects are to win the national championship basically every year, or just as a program for the foreseeable future. But man, it looked like Georgia was building just an insane dynasty. And look, they still haven't lost a home game since 2019. It's not like it feels like last year was such a down year. You lost 3 games, including the playoff game, but still won the SEC. I think the future is still very bright in Athens, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like with the resources they have, it's probably like they're going to be in the mix pretty much every year, barring just a complete program collapse. Like as long as Kirby Smart is the coach and they have as much money at their disposal as they do, they'll be fine.
But it does. I mean, it's not the same as Dabo Swinney's. I'm not going to go to the portal because that's what I believe in. Like that was like so drastically hurting like the competition level of his team. Like he was actively like not making his team as good as he could possibly make them. I think it's not the same, but I feel like there is an extent of that. Like if Texas is throwing this to get star recruits and Georgia's not, I mean, at some point, it's like, do you have to ask the university? Like, you guys got so much money. I see the financial reports every year. You're right up there with everyone. Why is Georgia just not spending it like the other ones are?
Well, I don't know if I just don't know how much I agree with the idea that Georgia's like not spending that level of money. Because like the number one quarterback in the country just committed there. It's not like they're being cheap, you know. They had the number one player in the country commit there 2 years ago. I understand he ended up flipping, but it's like Georgia still pulls in elite classes, and like I don't know. I don't want to like. I think it's unfair to be like all of Georgia's recruiting successes right now in this era are because Kirby Smart is a great recruiter, but everything they haven't done because they don't want to spend money. Like I don't know if it's fair to say that. I think Georgia probably isn't like we'll probably never know how much anyone is spending on NIL right now because the real answer is probably like we don't even want to know. But like I'd be willing to bet they're probably a little bit closer to like the Texases and LSUs of the world than maybe we want to admit.
That could be fair. Don't mess with my narrative over there, Bo. Elijah Griffin committed because he just loves the university and and how they're going to develop him as a human being. Justice Terry is just all about the money. That's what it is.
That's right.
No, I think that's fair. And I think the other thing is like these money that the collectives are spending is not publicly disclosed or anything, right? So it's like that. I would love to see something like we've talked about before, like the NBA does, with you can get a supermax if that was the team who drafted you, kind of thing. Like encouraging people to stay where they are, If you could be like a second, third year player, now you can get X amount of dollars because you stayed at this university. You know what I mean? But the seniors could be making a lot from the collective, as far as I know.
Yeah, and we really have no idea about these collectives. Like when I was writing for the Red and Black, we tried to do like a story about Georgia's NIL collective, which I believe is called the Classic City Collective. And we tried so many different like open records requests, and we emailed so many different people, and we tried to contact so many people, and just nobody would talk because like those things are shrouded in mystery, man. Like they're just infinite money pits as far as I'm concerned. And we will never know what's in them. Like
interesting. Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the bigger things Georgia's got going for him. Kirby's like, dude, we're not gonna do some kind of crazy bidding war to get you out of high school, but come here and you're going to make enough money. We're gonna hold you down.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good enough pitch to get, maybe those how you get the kinds of guys who you want to build your roster with. And it's no shade on a guy like Jackson Cantwell for taking the money you can get. It's like, because I see this argument like, oh, you're gonna take the $2 million now, but look at what the first offensive lineman, he's getting 20 million guaranteed. That's where the real money is. It's like, yeah,
like,
he could also make that money too. Like
yeah,
there's no, it's not mutually
exactly.
exclusive here.
Yeah. And also, like, I don't blame anybody for taking the money that's in front of them. You don't want to, like, what if you think like that and then you get to camp and then you blow your knee out? You still have that $2 million.
Yeah, if you blow your knee out, or you're just not that good. Like,
yeah, or you're just not that
Mitch
good.
Hyatt was
Which
number one
I don't
offensive
doubt
lineman.
Jackson. Yeah.
What's that?
Which I'm sure Jackson Cantwell will be very good. But
yeah, I would assume he's going to be. But if he was a bust, he would not be the first 5-star who was a bust. And
no,
like Mitch Hyatt, North Gwinnett High School in the house. But he was number one offensive tackle. He had a great career at Clemson too, but wasn't even drafted after being a 5-star. I don't know why he wasn't drafted, but after being a 5-star number one offensive lineman, guy ends up not getting drafted. I'm sure he would have loved to have gotten a big payday as a freshman in college. They never got in the NFL.
Like the biggest like O-line flame out that I can remember in the NFL is Isaiah Wilson. That was bad. That was like his career went up in smoke, man. Like it was bizarre the way that all that went down.
Yeah, I still can't believe that. I mean, that guy was just great 2-year starter for Georgia, and then
for a while,
out of the league, Tennessee dropped him after the first year.
They cut him after his rookie year, I think, and he like didn't play again.
Yeah, that's crazy, and that's one thing that worries me about Lewis Cine a little bit. Not suggesting anything about Lewis Cine off the field, but you don't see teams cut first-round picks after 1 or 2 seasons very often.
But at the very least, I mean, Lewis Cine though, like he got his way back in the league and he got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, he got a Super Bowl ring. Yeah, like
he was on the team when they won.
Like LaShawn McCoy got that Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I'm glad that Shady got
a ring. No shade to Shady.
Well, Lewis Cine is another one who is hanging on for dear life in the league right now for sure. But he got a ring.
Well, without a doubt. Shout out to all the Eagles. I don't know. I go back and forth. We've talked about like I was a Lions fan for. I was thinking more and more about that. Our conversation of my first NFL game I ever saw was the Falcons versus the Eagles with Herschel Walker. Maybe I should just be an Eagles fan. All the other Georgia fans are doing it.
Just don't be a Packers fan.
The thing that held me back, honestly, was the Philadelphia Phillies. I can't root for I can't root for the same team as those people. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Phillies. I couldn't do it either.
All right. Anything else about the NIL stuff before we move on?
I don't think so, man. It just gets kind of depressing to talk about after a while.
For sure. And we should be depressed. Georgia's got a big time class, just signed the number 1 quarterback. We were just hoping this was the avalanche that was going to lead to maybe the number 1 overall class. But maybe you can get Tyler Atkinson. He seems like he's going to be a tough one to get. He's one of these guys who feels like an NFL player, like right now, honestly, the way people talk about Tyler Atkinson. But yeah, Georgia, I'm sure, is still going to sign a top 5. Kirby Smart, I wouldn't bet against top 3 because that's what it usually is. But yeah, I think we're going to end up with a good class here. So the last of our positional previews of the season, sir. We're just going to pack it all here into one. We went through all the positions. Now we need to hit special teams. So I knew Peyton Woodring was good, right? Like you vibes, you feel confidence in a kicker. I don't think I've ever looked at his stats. I don't think I knew how good Peyton Woodring was, to be honest. This dude's 42 of 48 in 2 years, 119 out of 119 on extra points. Only 2 players in the country last year who attempted more than 20 field goals had a better percentage than him at 91.3%, 21 of 23 last year. This guy's hot rod 2.0, what a Billy Bennett 3.0, whatever you want to call him. He's up there with Georgia's best kickers. Early Blair Walsh before he got I don't know what happened his junior senior year. Yeah. But anything to say on Peyton Woodring, sir?
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Woodring like you said, I mean, he lived up to the hype. I mean, I remember his college career. I'm trying to pull up his early game log because he did. I remember he had a tough start because he missed. This is what it was. He missed 2 field goals in the 20s against Ball State and South Carolina in his second and third games. And I remember,
Is
like,
that
that
right?
was a big thing that people were talking about. It was like, this freshman kicker that Georgia has is struggling, but they stuck by him. The coaching staff reiterated that they trusted him and they believed in him. And I mean, ever since then, he's been, I mean, I think the numbers that you said kind of speak for themselves. He's as solid as they come. He hasn't had to make any, like, unless I'm forgetting something. I don't think he's had to make many, like, super super high leverage, last second field goals or whatever. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's capable of making those because he's been super reliable for them for a while. And I think having a reliable kicker is something football fans just kind of take for granted. Like, you never hear, unless you have like a Justin Tucker, who everyone knows is just like an insanely good player. You never hear fan bases like praising their kicker constantly. It's really just when he misses, you hear, oh, this guy sucks, but it's a thankless job sometimes. So shout out to Danny
Yeah.
Wood.
It took Tucker like a decade of being like the greatest kicker
Yeah,
ever for people to
exactly.
start to hype him up.
Remember, like, wait, the Ravens kicker is really good.
This guy like literally never misses. Yeah, I think you're right because I remember him missing one against Alabama. I think in the SEC championship, but I think we remember
Okay.
every missed field goal against Alabama. It's just we know it's gonna be important at the end of the game. But yeah, he's just been super consistent. And I think that's one thing that's very different about Kirby Smart's tenure than Nick Saban's is, man, we have a good kicker basically every year Kirby Smart's been here. So I think that's definitely an underrated thing
Yeah.
for sure. And then Brett Thorson, he was 7th in the country in average a year ago, coming off the torn ACL. I'm hoping he's ready by the start of the season. Drew Miller was number 1 punter in the country coming out of high school. I guess he was a freshman last year, did play against Notre Dame. But the biggest thing with Thorson last year was I just saw way too much of Brett Thorson. He had 36 punts in 2022, 32 in 2023, and then he had 42 last year. And I don't want to see Brett Thorson on the field that much. With all due respect to Brett Thorson, I want him, chilling on the sideline while he watches the quarterback throw touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if he's expected to be back when the season starts because he tore his ACL in December.
Yeah.
So he'll probably miss. I mean, he missed obviously, he missed the spring. He's probably missing most of the summer. So I wouldn't be surprised if Drew Miller starts the year off. And I mean, if Drew Miller starts the first like 3 or 4 games and does a good job, are they just going to stick with Drew Miller? I feel like that's a reasonable thing to ask, But also, I know they really like Brett Thorson. Brett Thorson is a well-liked guy in that locker room and just by everybody from what I've heard. So it would be kind of cruel to have him just lose his job to an injury like that. But I don't know. I guess I'd expect probably a first few games of being Drew Miller and then eventually switching over to Thorson. But I don't know.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, you've seen guys come back from an ACL after like 6 months or so. So, I mean, this would be almost like 9 months, maybe almost 10 months or so, 9 months. So, I guess there's a chance, but yeah, I mean, that's guys that, I mean, he's literally his only job is to kick. So, I don't know that coming out to that kind of position after 9 months might be a little bit different than a wide receiver who obviously an ACL is very important for a wide receiver as well. But I don't know. It feels a little different for a guy who's only kicking.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you'd have to ask like a sports doctor about like the impact of an ACL on a punter because I don't think it was his kicking leg. I think he tore in the other leg.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that. But I don't. If I remember correctly, I think it was his non-kicking leg that he tore it in. But yeah, I mean, Drew Miller filled in admirably for Brett Thorson in the Sugar Bowl. I don't think there would be any major issues if he had to take over for a while, but Yeah, it is an unusual situation to be in, to have your punter be coming off an ACL tear for sure.
Yeah, and Drew Miller played well, even though they decided to start the game by roughing him. Was it 3 times in a
Yeah,
row?
they did.
Like
They did. Like that was
that
his first game action. Was like
that
that.
was such
The
garbage.
payoff. Yeah,
Like
so like
I feel like there was a like in soccer, like sometimes you get a yellow card for one bad tackle, but sometimes it's like, okay, you've had like 3 or 4. We're giving the a cumulative yellow card here. I was shocked they just kept calling running into after they were just drilling this guy. But
yeah, that was crazy. That was, I mean,
yeah,
shit, props to Drew Miller for like handling that well. I mean, in his first game, because he could have easily gotten flustered by that, and that could have caused him to, drop a snap or rush a punt or something later. But he didn't do that. So I think that kind of tells you that like that guy can fill in if you need him to, because that was crazy that was happening, man. His
yeah, I
first game.
almost wondered if it was intentional. Like they know
I
they
feel
have a
like it had
backup
to be.
punter,
It
try
happened
to
what?
come after him.
Was it 2 times in a row the same guy did it? Like, I did think about that. I was like, do they know this is a new punter and they're trying to rattle him? Because honestly, I mean, I wouldn't even be like, I couldn't even be mad if that was true.
And I
That's like not
wonder,
even a bad strategy. Like honestly,
honestly,
like
and I wonder if Texas was thinking the same thing because I don't know if you remember. That's when the first punt return, the first punt opportunity after Thorson got hurt was when they called the fake punt. And so that would have
oh yeah,
been Drew Miller's first actual punt. So I wonder if Texas
okay.
is like, oh, they got a backup in here. We need to come after this. And then a
Yeah,
little Drew Bobo shovel pass,
yeah,
which Kirby with the fake punt. No one was expecting that at all.
fake
Finally
punt.
getting
Yeah,
over that
well, 'cause
2018 fake
yeah,
punt.
well, fake. I was gonna say fake punts in the SEC championship don't usually bode well for Kirby.
Absolutely. Shout out to Kirby Smart. Yeah, he knows a little bit more than us when
I
it
mean,
comes to
that was a much better play call. Like the big thing about like the Fields one that didn't work was like I still don't know what the plan was there. I'm sure if I went back and I watched it again and you explained it to me like I was 5, I could probably figure out what the play was supposed to be. But the thing I remember about that play being like, what was the plan gonna be? Like when when Justin Fields got the snap,
he
who was he
said
supposed to throw the ball to?
I'm not sure. I remember he said they were basically calling. Do you remember the same play that Georgia ran against Alabama in 2012? Who did they have throwing it? I want to
Oh
say it was a
yeah,
tight end. I think Sanders
friggin'
Cummings was the one that
didn't
caught it.
Arthur Lynch throw that?
I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
And so
Arthur Lynch
just
threw that.
Sanders Cummings was just kind of right down the seam, like a gain
Yeah,
of like 12 or something.
yeah,
I think Kirby said they were calling that same play, but I think he thrown it Justin Fields under the bus a little bit. I think he said we didn't snap it in time. So then Alabama kind of recovered. But yeah, that
yeah.
play was just,
That
I
was
don't know, the
that
motion they had in the backfield, just nothing happening. It was just, oh man, it was
yeah. No, that Drew
especially
Breaux.
the not that we need to go down
No,
that
yeah.
road, but
That game
especially
was soft.
because Hurts had just come in and like led one drive. So like
Yeah, so
make
like
your backup
immediately like
quarterback,
forget them.
yeah, make the backup quarterback drive 80 yards or something. Don't just give it to him at midfield. Like that was just frustrating.
Yeah. That Drew Bobo play though, that was beautiful. Like it was such a far cry. Like it was such a crazy like full circle moment. Like seeing Kirby get to like redeem himself because man, I mean, I'm surprised. If I were him, I would have never called a fake punt in the SEC championship ever again.
Ever again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
That's why we're built
he,
different.
yeah,
For
he
sure.
he deserves a lot of credit for having the stones of being like, no, I'm gonna try that again. Like,
Yeah, between that and then calling the timeout to stop the fake punt against Ohio State,
yeah, he
he's
did do that.
totally
That's right.
redeemed himself,
He
as
did.
Lloyd Christmas would say.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So in terms of the return game, Anthony Evans led Georgia in both kick returns and punt returns last year. And I felt like Anthony Evans at some point was gonna break one. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. He had some of that wiggle. I feel like he just I don't know. He left something to be desired. Georgia's basically not had an elite return man since Mecole Hardman, I would say. Maybe I don't give Mekhi Muse enough credit. He had some solid production, but I don't know. I just not have the confidence in Mekhi Muse that I did in a Mecole Hardman. Like a Kyrus Jackson. Like Kyrus Jackson was he
good.
got what the punt was gonna get. You know, he would return whatever you could get, but he was never gonna break one really. Mecole Hardman felt like he was about to break it like every single time he touched it. But that brings us to go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman just that dude just I've never seen acceleration like him. He's basically the opposite of Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie was all side to side. Like Mecole Hardman was just straight line, just shot out of a cannon.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be down for the human joystick as well. Isaiah McKenzie was a lot of fun to watch.
He was electric,
man. But I think the clear logical candidate to do not only punts but probably kicks as well, it's got to be Zachariah Branch. I mean, this guy led the country, I'm pretty sure, 20 yards per punt return. I'm pretty sure like 10 is a good average for punt returns. And this dude averaged 20 yards a return as a true freshman, 18 per kick return, took a punt and a kick to the house that year. I think he's got to be the logical guy to return punts and kicks this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's probably, I mean, like we were just saying, he's probably the most exciting return man Georgia's had since Mecole Hardman. Just because, yeah, I agree. Like Mekhi Muse, I mean, good player, cool story as well as a walk-on, but just didn't have the same crazy burst that I'd say Hardman and like Isaiah McKenzie did. So, yeah, I mean, Zachariah Branch had what was like a 15, 20-yard return in the G-Day game, if I remember correctly, too. So it's like he's already shown it in a Georgia uniform. He did it at SC. Like, that could add a whole different dimension to Georgia's team is if you have a guy that's a threat to score on special teams, because they haven't really had that in a while.
For sure. And just all around it's one thing, like USC kind of had their struggles last year. And so you see his offensive production like wasn't what it was as a freshman. But then it's like the return numbers weren't what they were as a freshman either. Like, I don't know. I don't know if all around he just wasn't as good as he was as a true freshman. But I think, maybe that was defense is keying on him being their USC's kind of star player, and they were able to limit him. Maybe he's not able to be limited as much at Georgia with more weapons. But it'll be interesting to see. I feel like Georgia seems to have running backs a lot at those kick return spots. Like you saw Cash Jones back there a little bit last year. Like I remember like Dejon Edwards returned some kicks. I feel like Kenny McIntosh. McIntosh was the dude who was like close to breaking them every time he touched a kick return. But who are the other candidates you think that could return kicks or punts this year?
Yeah, so kicks, I would agree. I would probably expect them to have a running back do it, right? Like, but Cass Jones has done it before. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it again. Dwight Phillips is another guy with solid straight line speed that they could have back there doing it. Far as in the wide receiver room, again, it hurts having Anthony Evans because he was probably going to handle the punt returns. But yeah, I really think I'm going to be kind of disappointed if Zachariah Branch is not returning punts at the very least. Kicks, I don't really care because kickoff returns are just lame anyways. And like, how many kick returns do you see here? But punt returns,
Anthony Evans returned like 7 last year or something.
Punt returns are the cool ones, and I would like to see Zachariah Branch back there because that could be really exciting. I mean, there's really nothing like a nice punt return, bro.
For sure. I wrote down a couple other guys I could see if not Branch, or maybe he gets injured and misses some games, and we see some other guys. I think Sokovi White seems like he could be a candidate to return punts. I know London Humphrey did at least have a kick return in his year at Vanderbilt, so maybe he's a guy who can do it.
I forgot about that.
But the two sleepers I have to return kicks, I don't know if you remember when this was like a social media trend, everyone was going around talking about like their starting five, like for basketball from the Georgia football team. All the different players were naming who their starting five would be. Every single person just about had Jay Bell on their starting five. Like apparently this dude is just a hooper.
Wait,
And so
Jeremy Bell, the receiver?
Is it Jeremy Bell? Everyone was calling him Jay Bell.
Yeah, he's from Clinch County. That's where he's from Homerville, which is a very small town in South Georgia. But my mom grew up there. It's like sub 2,000 people. So
nice.
I'm a big Jeremy Bell guy.
And this dude's a walk-on, and
yeah,
he
scored
a baller.
He caught a 30-yard touchdown on G-Day. It was crazy.
Yeah, so like I wouldn't rule him out. And then the other one, I mean, if he really is Lad McConkey 2.0, I mean Landon Rolden, maybe he's rocking 84. If he really has the juice that McConkey had. And McConkey returned some punts. He was solid when he was returned some punts. I would like
they should have had him do it more though. I know McConkey also just dealt with a lot of injuries, so it was probably best to not have him doing that. But he would have been awesome if he was able to do it more. Yeah, I don't know. Landon Rolden is an interesting one because, I mean, he is an incredible athlete. North Oconee had him just doing everything. But I hope it's Branch, though. I really hope Branch is the guy. I think he has the chance to be the next Hardman, McKenzie type of dude because I didn't realize it until you said it, but Georgia hasn't really had a return threat in a few years. So this could be the year.
Yeah, it's been a while. And I think that's just such an underrated aspect of the game of like, you thought you were going to start inside the 20 and now you got the ball at midfield. Like that changes a football game a lot. Not to mention every once in a while taking one to the house. So I'll be interested to see what we do this year. I think, like you said, I think Zachariah Branch is the obvious candidate. So I think injury is probably the only reason he's not Georgia's full-time punt returner and maybe even kick returner because he did that a lot in at USC. But like you said, that just is not nearly as big of an impact as punt returner. You're only going to see a handful of kick returners, handful of kick returns all season, really.
Yeah, kick returns are lame. That's why the NFL changed them.
You think kick returns are lame in general, or you just think kicking out of the end zone every time?
Kickoffs are just because like kickoff return touchdowns just aren't that aesthetically pleasing. Like you catch it and you just find a seam and you run through it. But a punt return, you catch it, and there's like 5 guys running right at you, and you have to make like 3 of them miss at least. The other 2 guys hopefully get blocked. Like it requires you to like actually, put a few moves on people. But kickoff returns, it's like you might have to cut once the whole time.
I think
they're cool when they happen because it's like, oh, a kickoff touchdown, but like they're not like they don't look as awesome as punt returns do.
That's an interesting take. I guess I can understand what you're saying. Punt returns are like a blank canvas for an artist, and he's just freelance.
It's like the coolest play in sports, in football at least.
No, it really is. The kick return is just such a response, though. It's like you just scored a touchdown, boom, we just take it back.
Oh yeah,
or we're starting the half, or starting the
dude. I was at the Sugar Bowl. I remember.
I mean that changed the game. Like that was it. They basically that was all Notre Dame needed to do.
Like it did, and like what it meant. Yeah, what it meant to the game was like, it was an incredible just like punch to the mouth from Notre Dame, but also like it was just a guy catching the kickoff and running, and Georgia just couldn't tackle him.
Yeah, but you got to give him credit. You got to give him credit for the.
Give him credit for. I mean, following the blockers, hitting the hole, being insanely faster than I could ever be in my life, and I think he definitely did make a guy miss or something, but like, it's not as much of an. Just objectively, I just don't think it's as much of an insane individual effort as a punt return touchdown.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely more of a team. You gotta block your blocks. And probably the kick, the most likely the kick team probably did something wrong, and a guy was in the wrong lane or something like that. But they're both still exciting. But I'm with you. I'll choose a punt returner over a kick returner for sure. And I feel like punt returner, when was the last time Georgia had it, like Brandon Boykin? Like, I feel like I see a lot of other teams with defensive
Hardman had
backs.
one.
You know, the defensive backs that just are those all around players, a Patrick Peterson, you know, the Tyrann Matthews that return punts as well. Like, that's always awesome.
Yeah, I do like when there's a guy like that.
Devin Hester was just so good at returning. It's like, I don't think you really need a position.
That's technically what Mecole Hardman was, because he was a DB when he was as a freshman, but then he moved to
Yeah, that's
receiver.
fair. So yeah, maybe we could have seen that, but let's go to our final segment of the maybe our final segment. We'll see how much time we got. Our next segment here, sir. So if you could handpick one player on Georgia's roster to be an All-American next year, I want to know who you would pick. And so to just explain the exercise to everyone, I'm saying, like, if you could snap your fingers and this guy all of a sudden becomes an All-American. So, like, for context,
give him
you probably wouldn't pick CJ Allen or Dalen Everett, like two of the more proven players. Their success probably doesn't mean, oh, now Georgia's automatically a championship team if those guys are All-Americans, you know? So someone like that, like KJ Bolden's already kind of on that path of looking like he could become an All-American. So you probably wouldn't choose someone like that. You could snap your fingers, and this guy who hasn't done much or whatever the case may be becomes All-American. We'll leave Gunnar Stockton out of this
okay,
exercise.
I was gonna say
Gunnar, I mean, if he's an All-American, then yeah, Georgia's probably, he's a Heisman finalist. Georgia's probably a national championship contender.
If you're even a good quarterback nowadays, you're a Heisman finalist.
Yeah, without a doubt. So I wrote down 4 names, but I'll do you want to start it off?
Yeah, well, I guess so. If I could just pick one name for who I could just magically make an All-American out of nowhere, it would have to be Gabe Harris. For a couple reasons. One, because I think Gabe Harris, it's fair to, like, Gabe Harris is not exactly an automatic All-American type of player, so I think he qualifies on this list. It's not like I picked like AJ Bolden or, you know, CJ Allen or someone who, you know, you and I probably think, like you said, is on that track. So I think he qualifies, and also he plays a premium position, and it's a position that Georgia is kind of bad at right now. Georgia lost their probably 4 best edge rushers, right? Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Chaz Chambliss, and Damon Wilson are all gone. There's just really not a lot of names in that room that you can turn to and be like, this guy's going to be the guy to, you know, lead that unit this year. But Gabe Harris is the only one that you probably could say with any degree of, like, certainty, right? You know, he's a former top 100 recruit, IMG Academy guy. This is going to have to be a huge year for him, for Georgia's pass rush to really be good at all, because if it's not him, it's Quintavious Johnson, and then you have some younger guys behind that. But, like, it's looking like it's going to be one of the weaker position groups on the team, and also edge rushing is probably a top 2-3 most important position in football anyway. So, yeah, man. If Gabe Harris could have an All-American caliber season, that would do wonders for this defense, and that's why he's my pick.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pick. I think you definitely understood the assignment, sir. If Gabe Harris was 12 sacks, 14 sacks this year, I think that's an absolute game changer for Georgia's defense next year. And I don't know how to pronounce his name. Elo Mendozi, is that how you pronounce his name? The Army transfer.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Like, that would be like another candidate at that edge rush position, kind of how you're speaking to.
So I should have mentioned him when I was talking about the other guys in the room.
Yeah, because I think he's definitely a candidate to get the most snaps, maybe even more than Gabe Harris this year, honestly. But hopefully both of those guys are good pass rushers for Georgia this year. The first name I thought to go with is Jordan Hall. I think with what that defensive line was last year, like, they were fine, but there was a lot of teams that had a lot of success running the ball against Georgia, more than we've seen in, I would say, last 5, 6, 7 years under a Kirby Smart coach team. Like, we just haven't seen teams just consistently just gash Georgia on the ground like we did last year. And I think if Jordan Hall, except for Texas, basically everyone but Texas, If Jordan Hall is that actual 5-star prospect that he was supposed to be, like, and he's just a game wrecker in the middle of that defensive line, I think Christian Miller is going to be really good this year. You hear a lot from Elijah Griffin as a true freshman. Like, he's going to be an impact player. Like, if you have three impact players on the interior of the defensive line, I mean, that makes it almost impossible for an offense to do anything.
Yeah, and that's another position where they lost a lot of guys, Stackhouse and Brinson moving on. So Jordan Hall, that's someone who I feel like they've been pretty excited about for a while now. Christian Miller is probably like the safest bet on that defensive line, but if they can get like a real emergence next to him, yeah, that'd be huge. That's just the front seven has a lot of questions this year that it hadn't really had in the past. But so yeah, I like that we both picked guys from that area.
For sure. And then I have a second answer. Do you have a second answer, or you want me to just say mine?
You can say yours.
On the offensive side of the ball, if we're talking truly All-American, I think if Zachariah Branch, like you were just talking about, was an All-American, All-American wide receiver, not just All-American return man. If he's an All-American return man, that's a game changer. But if this guy is actually putting up a 65 catch, 1,100 yard season with 10 touchdowns, like, I just feel so confident in what Noah Thomas and Colby Young are, just as proven commodities, that I'm worried, like we talked about, how much better his freshman year was than his sophomore year. If Zachariah Branch is that just All-American, like this might be the best offense in college football, honestly. Like, I think this receiving group is going to be good, but if Branch is that good, it could be insane.
Yeah, I would probably have him as my second too, honestly. I was going to say him as well. Because, yeah, and also I feel like an All-American wide receiver season is like weighed a lot different from some of the other positions because, like it's such a flashy position and there's like so many guys every year that put up great statistical seasons. So for you to be like a first team All-American wideout, like you obviously if you're first team All-American anything, you're really good. But I think that's one of those positions that's probably the most competitive when it comes to getting on, awards lists like that. So yeah, I agree that like if he were to make that, it would probably be a signal that like that offense is really good because there was nobody that looked remotely anything like that level last year on Georgia's offense as a pass
No
catcher.
All-Americans on Georgia's receiving core last year? No, and honestly, if we're being honest, there's no, I don't think there's any real chance that he is an All-American receiver. If he was an All-American, he's going to be on some sort of list as like an all-purpose type of player, of like just what he does. Because like you're saying, all the Bolitnikov finalists are guys with 95 catches for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. Gunnar
Stockton threw for like 4,000 yards.
Yeah. Which I'm here for, Gunner. If you wanna sling that thing around,
but do that.
And I think like we're saying too, like it's because of how I feel about the rest of the group. Like Colby Young and Noah Thomas are going to be really solid out wide. If Zachariah Branch is that game breaker, it just makes Georgia's offense almost impossible to guard.
Yeah.
And then, do you have another one?
Yeah, I mean, the other one I would say would be Noah Thomas. I mean, he's just a different type of player from Branch, big body, outside contested catch guy, but same idea. Like if they have a guy who's an All-American receiver, I mean, that would change everything. Be something that they did not have last year.
Without a doubt. And then the other one I wrote down, Monroe Freeling, because I mean, with how this offensive line was a year ago, like if you could just pencil in an All-American left tackle, that would do wonders for what this offense was a year ago. 15th in the SEC and running the football. Like, they got to get better on that O-line. And this guy was a 5-star coming out, so it wouldn't shock you. And maybe he was dealing with injuries, maybe that's why he was, had his ups and downs last year. But I mean, or the same could go for Ernest Green, whichever one you want to pick. If Georgia can have an All-American on the offensive line at one of those tackle spots, that would be a huge step forward to what they were in 2024.
Yeah, for sure.
And then maybe, if Nate Frazier wanted to break out and be, let's get back to those RBU days and rush for like 1,500 yards. That would be awesome too.
That'd be sweet.
Let's see here. We got time for one last segment, sir. Let me get this up on our screen here. I've seen this doing its rounds on the Georgia social media world. So, best Georgia logo, sir. So, for the purpose of this exercise, I'm not sure why number 2 is even on
why
the
is that
list.
even on there?
Yeah, we're just gonna the G
It's
is
not connected.
no one's replacing the G. All right. So only 3 Georgia logos can stay. Which 3 are you choosing? We're just gonna go ahead and get number 2 out of there. Sir, what are your 3 logos in order?
Oh, so I'm still choosing 3? Okay.
Yeah,
That's actually still pretty easy though.
Okay.
I think I'm just choosing the entire left column.
You like number 7, huh?
I do. I do. I've had over there. I have a trash can in my room. It's like this antique trash can with that design, with that logo on it, and I've always just liked that logo. I love the aesthetic of like early 60s, late 50s college football logos, where every team's logo is an animal mascot drawn all big and mean and ugly looking. Obviously the Bulldog is a great mascot for that, and I think you see it done very well here. I love the pose he's doing. It just reminds me of that time period so much. And number 4 is another just classic. I love the detail in the Bulldog face. I love the big mean face he's making. Love the spikes on the collar. It's a nice touch, but it's not too I think egregious. It doesn't look all graphic-y and printed on and corporate as the spikes on number 3 look. It looks hand drawn and more like somebody really sat down and made that. And then number 1 is a classic. It's my second favorite Georgia logo of anything, I would say. I love it. I love it as a silhouette. I love it just normal. I have so many T-shirts over the years of just a plain white T-shirt with that logo on it. I just think it's great. So, yeah, I think that's easy for me. I'm picking those 3.
Yeah, you won't hear any argument from me about number 1. I think number 1 is definitely my favorite secondary logo. Funny story about number 7. I think it's maybe a copyright thing of like or trademark, whatever which one maybe the trademark is like run out or something, because there's this website that sells a bunch of like sports stuff, but they're all really old logos. So it's kind of my theory that like they can get around the trademark because like they're like worn out or something. But my wife bought me some Georgia socks, and I saw she bought like her brother-in-law some Cowboys ones that were this old school logo. And so when she said she bought me some, I was like, as long as it's not that old school Georgia dog where he's like leaning against the G, and she's like, it's literally exactly which one it is. So it's just kind of funny. I just like shit on this gift I was about to get.
The one I don't want.
But no, I've definitely got old school. There's some old school like glasses my parents have in the house that have that old school one on it. I can't respect this dog and the standing up straight with the sweater and the hat on. But what is it, just me, or do people just despise number 3?
I don't like number 3.
People hate it.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Just look at it look how it stands out compared to the rest. And I don't mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
It looks, I mean, obviously I hate to use this because this is such just a lazy thing to say nowadays, but like it really does look like an AI like generated it or something compared to the rest of them. The rest of these are all clearly like somebody's handiwork, and this one just looks like a bunch of suits got together in a room and they were like, we need to make a secondary logo for the Georgia Bulldogs. Let's come up with one.
So yeah, that's fair. I feel like I've struggled comparing 3 and 4 because 4 is obviously the classic,
I
bulldog
love
head.
4 and 1.
But why is a dog wearing a hat? It's
I don't he that's fine though. He can wear a hat.
He can rock it. I don't know. I think that's I'm not crazy about number 3. And especially because number 3, it's like it's essentially looks like North Carolina High School's logo. It like feels like a high school that's the Bulldogs more than what Georgia should be rocking.
Yeah, it does.
I'll say number 9 has his place. All right, on T-shirts and on cups and stuff. Don't throw out number 9. You can't be like the secondary logo. But number 8 is the most underrated one on this whole list. Because number 8 is honestly hot take here. No, I wish UGA was built a little more like number 8. If we're being honest, like the early UGAs were a little slimmer than the last couple decades.
UGA lives like a king, man. He's got a few extra pounds on him.
It's probably hard to stay fit when you're eating like a king. But no, I think you're right. I think I like number 8 like as a logo. I just remember that as a kid in the 90s. I remember my parents had a mouse pad that had that logo on it. It was just it's cleaner, than the old kind of those kind of like you're saying the hand drawn kind of wrinkles on all the faces and everything. It's a little smoother. But yeah, I find myself when I'm buying gear these days, it's either got the G or it's got number 1 on it. That's like those are like the best 2 looks. But if I'm keeping 3, give me number 1. Man, give me 1, 4, and 8, I think. I'm going to take that one ahead of the old school one.
Okay. All right. So we only have one difference then.
Yeah. But the whole hairy dog, these I don't know. He's not the same as the what was it? Is it Jack Davis? Was that the guy who made all those old school Georgia shirts, like the illustrations and everything? But that's who he reminds me of. Like the guy on the t-shirt, like squeezing the alligator or stepping on the tiger's tail or something. He's always in those like playful kind of shirts. Those take me back.
Okay, wait. It just threw me off of the stream, but I think I'm back now. All right, cool.
Oh, okay. Well, you came on just in time. It wasn't anything important.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
But yeah, number 9, he's got his place on Coke cups.
Oh yeah,
at basketball games.
I fully agree. I like number 9 too. I like all of them really. Even number 3 I don't hate. I'm not a huge fan of it really.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, sir. Anything else for you this week?
I think that's all I got.
All right, we'll have to come up with something next week now that we're done with our position preview, and we will be less than 100 days till the start of the college football season, so it'll be here before you know it. For that guy over there, Bo Underwood, I am Matt Green. I appreciate everyone tuning in, and as always, go Dogs.
Woo.